Jesse, you asked me a question before we jumped on this morning.
I did.
You did, and you're like, what is Domas's role this season?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because we were just talking about it. Like the last regime, it was supposed to be him and Fox. That's who you're building around, and now that regime is gone, and he's still here. But we got DeMar DeRozan here, Zach LaVine. Things are kind of wonky. We're not sure who's going to be here after this season. It's just, where does Domas fit into all this now? He's still a great player and all that. I don't really buy him as a top 2 player on your team, but I mean, I can't deny he's still a great player in the league. So just, where does he fit into?
Yeah, so I think he probably plays the most important role on this team. Like, again, I wasn't blaming DeMar DeRozan for saying what he said about last season because I totally agree with him, right? But I look at the way that this team was designed. It wasn't just like the outside noise that got inside and like broke this thing up. It was that the play on the court wasn't good enough, right? And that they had got away from the things that had made them really good 2 years earlier. And then we had a GM who kept going out and saying he wants the offense to get back to where it was in Beam Team 1 year, and a coach who was saying I need the defense to be better, and like no one was on the same page. That's what it felt like, right? I think Domas, he has this really interesting way about him that he's like very matter of fact, and he's actually honest to a fault in a lot of situations where you ask him a question and he has no problem saying, yeah, we had 2 other players that we thought we were going to get, and those deals fell through.
I respect that. That's how I am.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like, right, I enjoy Domas's directness, right? And I also look at him as the bridge between the coaching staff and the players, because he's the one with the relationship with Doug Christie. Like, they literally spent 2 years traveling the globe together in the off season. Like, you're together all season long playing 82 games, so you're flying all over the place. But during the summer, like Domas and Doug, they were in Spain together. They were in Lithuania together. Like, they traveled the world together, like LA, Napa, like wherever. Doug was always on the go. There's actually a point where a pipe broke in Doug's house and he didn't know it because he wasn't home. And Jackie was doing her show in LA, and it flooded their kitchen and caused like $80,000 worth of damage while he was out gallivanting around the world with Domantas Sabonis.
Fun fact for you.
So, like, look, there's this connection here, and I'm hoping that connection will help Doug connect with the players. The players already talked about how, having a player, a former player as a coach is a big deal. I thought Drew Eubanks was really, really smart on this. Like, if you guys go to my Twitter feed, you can find the Drew Eubanks interview from yesterday. He said he hadn't really played for a coach that was a player. And then last couple of years, he had played for Chauncey Billups in Portland, and just a different perspective that they have about, the travel and what being an NBA player is, and like how difficult everything is, leaving your family behind, all that stuff. Like, you just gain a different perspective. And so he's like fully on board with Doug, because it's like, it's not that Doug is going to ask you to do something that he couldn't do and didn't do himself. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's how like a lot of people lose credibility with the people around them, is like, hey, I need you to go do that. It's like, well, would you do that? You want me to go clean the bathroom. Would you clean the bathroom? It's like, yeah, I would clean the bathroom. I've cleaned it a million times. Yeah, but have you really? And so,
it's like doing the dishes here at Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one does the dishes.
So don't tell me to do the dishes.
And then it falls on a couple of people that are always the ones who do the dishes. And you're like, well, that's not very fair, because it's not like they're the ones who made all the mess. But either way, I think that there is this possibility that, number one, that the offense is designed around Domas again, because I don't see another way out of this thing. Like, you don't have again, Dennis Schroeder changed my mind on a lot of things yesterday when we spoke to him, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But you didn't bring in John Morant. You didn't bring in Trae Young. You didn't bring in some top tier offensive juggernaut at the point guard position to run the show. You brought in a game managing, solid, professional point guard to run your team, right? So that means that you've got to create offense from somewhere. And I don't know how you do it without running the ball strictly through Domas and having him orchestrate most of what this thing is going to be. I think they're going to play a lot of transition basketball, but in the half court, I think it's got to play through Domas, and he's got to be the distributor. And that's not a knock on Dennis Schroeder. It's just the team that you have.
Yeah.
So I think his role is probably the most crucial on the team, and I think it's been that way for the last few years. He doesn't need to be a guy who's scoring 25 a game, but he does need to get back to like 7-8 assists per game in order for this thing to function, in my opinion.
I don't hate that, just as long as maybe you got Levine and I guess DeRozan getting the shots up and stuff like that. Like if Domas is facilitating, that's great. But I feel like if you're still looking for Domas to kind of be that second man where it's like you need more shots out of him, then that's not going to work. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think last year, like we heard Mike Brown talk about it, we heard Doug Christie talk about it. We're breaking the shot clock into 3 8-second like buckets, right? You've got the first 8 seconds, you're bringing the ball across the court, you're trying to get into your offensive set. If something happens quickly, you have a transition bucket, you score. The next 8 seconds is truly to get into your offensive set, to move the ball, to find the open shooter. The last 8 seconds is like, everything went wrong. Somebody take the ball, go dribble, go do whatever you've got to do, get us a good shot, right? And I think what happened was, more often than not, that last 8 seconds started with 18 seconds left on the shot clock. And so guys just started playing like one-on-one basketball way too early and sort of breaking the offense. I'm hoping that this season they actually adhere to the idea of the 3 8-second, blocks of time, and they start to flow. They start to have some sort of offensive flow, because that's like, not only was last year a disaster as far as like what happened with the season. I mean, 40-42 isn't a disaster, but it is when you're looking at a team that everyone.
Where's the context of everything going into the season as well? That wasn't supposed to be a 2-game under 500 team. You're supposed to pick yourselves up after missing the playoffs the previous season.
Yeah,
and, like,
exactly.
get back to what you were and being team winner.
Well, I think the worst part is not only was the record not good, but the basketball itself was not good.
Yeah, there was no identity to it.
There was no identity. It wasn't fun to watch. It was like you're sitting there watching paint dry. It was a very, very like ugly style of basketball.
It was disconnected basketball.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And it was a lot of me ball. I want to see them use Domas as the hub, because I think that's how you have a flow offense. And again, Doug Christie's 2000, well, whatever, the 1998 to 2006 version of the Kings, it was all about offensive flow. It was everyone's touching the ball. But it was going through Chris Webber and it was going through Vlade Divac on every single possession, and they were orchestrating what was happening from the big man position. I think you can do that with Domas, and he's shown that you can do that with him. So I'm hoping that that's what they use him as a pillar.
What do you think this team can do if they are able to, I guess, if they are able to get back to just playing connected basketball, where all right, it's a lot smoother and things are working? Because I feel like the guy, like D'Lo and Casey talk about it, they can see this team. I think Damian said it yesterday. He'd be more shocked if they had 35 wins instead of 50 and things like that. Like, what do you think their ceiling is if they're able to make it work offensively?
I think it's more like 48 wins.
Higher than 2.
I don't know that 50 is something that's in the cards either way.
No, I'm not saying like he predicted 50 or anything like that, but like he's got him being a lot better than other people expect. I think most probably think 35 win type team, maybe 35 to 40, and I think the guys are 40 to 45.
Yeah, I was asked about it on the Dunked On podcast with Nate Duncan last week, and I think I put them at 36, and he had them at 35. And usually we're like 10 wins apart, and he's usually closer to the mark. But for me, if I'm looking at this team, honestly, I see chaos on the horizon. And if I'm wrong, then yeah, 44 to 46 wins probably in the cards. But if chaos creeps in.
And what do you mean chaos on the horizon?
Well, chaos means like trades are coming. Like something like last season, like the chaos hit during the summer and it just kept playing out, right? For me, like there was something wrong with that team from the jump, and they never really had a shot. This year, I think they've got a shot, because like if everybody jumps on board and says, okay, we're going to play this style, and if everybody actually at least tries defensively, I don't think you're going to make Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan or Malik Monk a great defensive player.
Yeah, they are what they are now. It's just You're just looking for buy-in, but
Yeah,
like you're not
yeah,
going to turn them into all NBA defensive players or anything like that.
exactly. But I do think that there is a possibility that if you play team defense and you're physical, and we watch the G League team or the summer league team play this brand of basketball, right? That they're trying to push forward. It's just there's a big difference between a bunch of 19 to 25-year-old NBA hopefuls going out there and trying hard versus a veteran team of basketball players.
Yeah, because this team doesn't lack talent. It's just we're not sure if the talent together really makes sense.
With that, and I think, I'll say this again and again. If you're gonna allow Keegan Murray to be the player that he probably will be,
That's
that
another guy
he
I'm
could be,
kind of curious about too, because he's just since he's gotten drafted, he's kind of been on the back burner where he's just I don't know if he hasn't been able to kind of blossom into the player he was drafted to be because of Keegan Murray or because of himself or because of the roster, and just he's kind of been buried.
I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's both, but I also think that when you see a player that has a talent that he has and an ability to make your team better, then as players, as his teammates, you need to ask and demand and push for him to be that player and not just go, hey, he's not taking that step, so that just means more shots for me.
Yeah, like what do you want us to do? Yeah.
No. What you need to do is you need to keep feeding him, and you need to keep getting in his ear, and you need to keep pushing him, because your way out of this thing is like the old Kawhi Leonard thing. Kawhi Leonard, you're not taking that shot because we want you to score a bunch of points. You're taking that shot because you make the San Antonio Spurs better by taking that shot. That's what the Kings need to realize, that for them to be better, Keegan Murray has to have the ball.
Yeah.
And if they don't get that, if it's about, stats for other players, this thing is going to be the same thing it was last year, just on a different branded look.